So that's my personal obsession. Even if I'm not photographing, I'm just always looking like, oh, this could look like this and this could look like that. So I'm also reflecting this in my photography because I like to trick people because I think photography is a very, it has this image of being very objective and truthful.
Street Unplugged by the Street Photo Collective Luxembourg.
Hello, everyone. And welcome to the second podcast of this year's Luxembourg Street Photography Festival. We just had the pleasure to have Matt Stewart, and now we welcome Julie Hrudová. Welcome, Julie.
Thank you.
How are you?
Good.
Do you enjoy the festival?
Yes.
Okay.
Very nice.
Good. For our listeners, could you just introduce yourself a little bit? And how did you end up in street photography?
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. I'm very happy to be here. So my name is Julie Hrudová. I come from Prague, and when I was 10, my parents dragged me to the Netherlands, where I'm still based, in Amsterdam. And I have been into street photography, I think, more than 10 years. And it all went quite spontaneously. I just started to make photos on the street. And then I also work at RTL Netherlands as a photo editor. So I'm part-timing basically with everything.
Okay. And yeah, tomorrow you will go to RTL. Could you talk a little bit more about this editing work? So we just might start with this.
Sure, yeah, it's quite a funny job. I'm not sure if more television stations have this job, particularly for the background photos, because my job is a photo editor at RTL, and we have to find and prepare the photos for the background screens during the news broadcasts.
Okay.
It's a lot of puzzling.
Getting back to your work in Amsterdam, so you have two books. Well, one main book, which is Chasing Amsterdam, and the other one is a smaller book on herons in Amsterdam. So we might just go one after the other, and if you could explain the Chasing Amsterdam. So how did this come, and why did you do this book?
Well, it was a series, a weekly series. I shot for an Amsterdam-based newspaper called Het Parool, and they have this section, like a photo section, every Friday. There's a full-page photo of Amsterdam. It's called Stadsbeeld, which in translation should be something like city life, city image. And they asked me to do this, and it's vertical photos, and I had to hunt down a situation every week in Amsterdam. And then I did this for 2 years, and after 2 years, I made the book.
Just for the listeners we are outside here in front of the Rotondes, which is the location of our festival. The sun is shining, so we decided to do it outside. So it will give some atmosphere, but I hope Patrick will manage. And yes, I didn't introduce myself. So I'm Marc from the Street Photography Collective Luxembourg. I'm joined by Patrick Hoffmann, also from the Photography Collective, and Tom Weiss, who is also listening into this podcast. So, getting back to Chasing Amsterdam, so you had to basically deliver every week one picture. So how did you manage that? That can be quite stressful, I guess, in terms of pressure. So how did you manage that?
Aggression prevention. It was like mental torture to look for something every week. Because normally I would just come across situations in quite a lazy way, like on the bike or when I was on the beach, I would see stuff and I would photograph it. But now I really had to look for it. And I mean, sometimes there's just nothing happening. So I was, if you, like 1.5 years ago, if you would be in Amsterdam and you would see like a angry lady cursing and calling people to help her, to help her with locations, I would ask friends, like, oh, please, just tell me a place, I will go there. Just give me some kind of guidance.
Mm-hmm.
So it was quite difficult, but it was also a very good experience, and I learned a lot from it. Also in terms of like not giving up and getting more in touch with the people I photographed. So I also did a slightly different approach to street photography than before.
Is it because also you knew that they gonna be published, so you had to speak to the people, and how did they react?
Yeah, well, legally, I was not obliged to ask them, but I did get in touch with a lot of people I photographed, and sometimes I didn't even ask. I just announced it like, "Oh, hey, I'm taking photos. Hope it's fine." And after often we exchanged details, and I was able to send them the newspaper, or they would buy it, and they would be happy that they are in the paper. So most people were fine, but of course not everyone in the Netherlands or anywhere on the street is always happy to be photographed. So, I mean, I also had a lot of discussions about that.
Okay. And you mentioned before that it was somewhat different from your street photography that you do, well, without assignment, let's say. In what sense was it different?
I think maybe because this was for this newspaper, so it also had a slightly photojournalistic touch. So I was maybe more aware of what was in the paper that week and what I could add to it. So I think I was more conscious also about the atmosphere in the city in that week. I was trying to catch that when I could.
Okay. The other project you did in Amsterdam, so while you were born in Prague, you moved to the Netherlands. You have been in Amsterdam, living in Amsterdam since the age of 10.
Well, at first I came. We moved to the village called Broek in Waterland. Broek means something with water, but it's also translated as pans. So I moved to Pans in Waterland, and when I turned 18, I escaped the village because it was a village and everyone knew each other, and it was time to go.
Okay. And you started street photography in Amsterdam then? Basically.
Yes.
Okay. And so the other project which I really love is the Herons project, because I basically think it's specific to Amsterdam. I've never seen another city. Well, honestly, I haven't seen them in Amsterdam, but
now you will probably.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, now
now
I
you
will
will
look.
see them everywhere.
I will look out for them. And so, how did this come? And so, what did really attract you to this?
Well, all of my series kind of happen naturally. So at first I was waiting for someone at the market, and he was late, and I was hangry. But then the herons were there, and they were also hangry. So we kind of started with this common feature. And I saw all these herons coming for the fish, and there was like a whole chess play of which heron was going to eat the fish first. And even if they caught the fish, they had to watch out because other herons were after them. And there were maybe 10 herons on the roofs waiting to fly to the street to get the fish. At first I was just photographing on the markets, and then I kind of became this heron photographer. So people would send me random images of herons, and they would send me tips like, "Oh, go to the zoo. There's a whole heron colony." And I also met Marc van Vught, who's a director, and he spent 10 years following the herons in Amsterdam. And he made an incredible documentary about the herons in the city. So he also had some tips, and I found the herons everywhere, and there were even people who were feeding them in their homes. There's Kiri the heron. She's also on Instagram. Comes over every day to your home to just get the sausage or chicken.
Okay. And how do you feel your photography relates to your regular life? Are there links? Are there bridges?
Oh, that's a good one. Maybe I think I might be because I'm an only child, and I do lots of things on my own, and I do also photography on my own, and I tend to focus on people who are alone as well in a way, or like sole objects, because my photographs are quite clean and often focused on one element, one person. I was also trying to get more people into the photos for my series for the paper, because otherwise it would be just lonely figures. And I really like humor, I like absurdism, and I think these things are all the photographs as well.
Yeah, because we asked Matt the same question, and because we really felt that, well, his images really reflect his personality, his character. So you would agree that's the same for you. So how would you describe your images, and how are they linked to your personality?
Yeah, I always like to do like visual mind tricks, also with myself. So when I'm traveling, I like to look out of the window and see if the place I see, if it could be in the Netherlands or somewhere else, or if I could like photograph it in a way that it would look like it was a completely different country, something like this. So I always like to look at things and imagine if I could photograph them in a different way. Um, so that's my personal obsession. Even if I'm not photographing, I'm just always looking like, oh, this could look like this and this could look like that. So I'm also reflecting this in my photography because I like to trick people because I think photography is a very, it has this image of being very objective and truthful. For still, a lot of people do think this. But due to this, it can be also extremely manipulative. And I really like to play with this element of kind of alienating a fragment of reality and turning it into a new reality.
Yeah. How, how important is Amsterdam, or the place where you're living in your photography? I mean, you have now 2 projects, Chasing Amsterdam, Herons. It's very Amsterdam linked. Um, do you think it's important that you live in this city to do these kind of projects?
I don't think so. I don't think my work is that much about Amsterdam. I mean, it's photographed in Amsterdam, but it's mainly like stuff I find interesting on the street, and it's in Amsterdam because I live there. But I think even my book could be made anywhere. I mean, I would get different backgrounds and different photographs, but I'm not really looking to show a certain city. I'm just kind of following my obsession for these strange or funny situations, but it could be anywhere.
Okay.
And you're speaking about your book. Um, how did you work out the book?
This was also mental torture. No, it was a lot of work and a lot of decision making. I stalked a lot of people for advice because I had no idea. I just thought, oh, I can make a book. Yeah, easy. But then, even if my plan was quite simple, I mean, I just wanted to make a book out of the series of every week photos of Amsterdam. But still, there were a lot of decisions that I had to make. Also financial decisions, technical decisions. So it was a lot of kind of production management, actually. It was fun as well, but it's a lot of work that's not super creative either. It's a lot of production.
And yesterday you mentioned that well, after your work on Chasing Amsterdam, you kind of fell in a trough in terms of inspiration, in terms of getting creative again. So how do you think you can manage, or did you already manage to get out of that trough and then being inspired again and then having fun doing street photography again?
Well, I actually enjoyed it. I mean, I was when I was finishing the book and when I was sending out all the packages from my living room, I was really looking forward to this kind of, well, we call it a black hole in the Netherlands. We call it het zwarte gat. I was really looking forward to just be chilling, travel a bit, go on vacations, not having to photograph all the time, not having to worry if packages arrive. So I've really enjoyed this period. I was in Rome last week for the Italian Street Photo Festival, and I went to some museums and I saw this wonderful classical art. Like everything in Rome is very overwhelming, and I got inspired again. So I went when I was in the museum. After I went back on the street, and I, like in a natural way again, I started taking some photos, and I was really feeling this again, like, oh, I want to go there, and the light is great. So I was waiting for this feeling just to come naturally to me. I don't want to force anything.
Go ahead, Marc.
And when you take pictures, are you already thinking about a new project, like the Herons? Did it come after a while, or was it from the beginning that could get a series? Or how do you work on your work? I mean, is it just a collection of street photographs, and then afterwards you look what could give a series, or is it more planned? I would say.
No, I'm extremely non-planning.
Okay.
So that's why the book was a bit difficult for me, because I had to plan all like things in advance. And with photography, I'm never like sitting behind my desk and thinking, oh, let's make a series about the herons. I just saw these herons on the markets, and I saw them in the zoo, and then I mean it all came quite spontaneously. It's not I'm not planning.
How do you match your regular work with your photographic activity? Because I think both are time-consuming.
It's a perfect match, because it's all about photography. So my life is like circling around this visual center, and I do 3 days at RTL, so it's perfect. And then next to it, I can do photographic assignments, and I can do my own personal work. So it's, I mean, if I would be working 5 days for RTL, that would be a completely different story. But 3 days, and then next to that, my own stuff. It's great.
And how difficult is it to make a living out of your photography?
Well, I'm not doing that. I mean, I am making a living out of photography in general, but I like the fact that I don't have to rely on just taking photos. And I was afraid to become a full-time photographer because I didn't want to lose my love for photography. And I think if I would be forced to make a certain amount of money just with taking photos, I might have stopped loving it.
Yes, I completely agree to this.
Yes.
I think a lot of young people would really struggle making their living out of photography, and then they force themselves, and then they lose the love for photography, and it just becomes another job.
Yes, and I think the type of photography that I like is getting less valued, also financially. I mean, in the Netherlands, I think it's not possible anymore to really live out of your photojournalistic work. So I think a lot of photographers are also, I mean, they also went to do other stuff, and they are, they lost this illusion of making a living from this. And it's also, I mean, it's a bad feeling when you see that it's valued less and less, and that there's just a new kind of wave coming in with photographs taken from Twitter, because it has to be fast. And it's not a judgment of good and bad, it's just changing. It's changing of the whole media spectrum.
Maybe, getting to this point of social media, in addition to your work on your own work, your editing work, you're also the founder of an account on Instagram called StreetRepeat. So for all the listeners, check it out. It's very interesting. Just give us, what did you made or create this Instagram account?
This also is one of my obsessions of collecting similarities. So when street photography kicked off on Instagram, there were a lot of curated street photography accounts, and the festival started happening, and there were a lot of open calls. So I was seeing a lot of street photo images, and I scrolled all these accounts, and I thought oh, this photo, did I see it already? Is it the same one? Is it different ones? How come? And then Instagram has this fantastic feature of collecting. So you can collect images, and you can put them into collections. So I just started to play with this, and instantly, I think even after one day, I already had some collections. And I was quite careful with asking photographers, because I had no idea if they would be even willing to be featured on this. But they were all photographers I asked for the first themes were super happy, and they loved the idea, and they were also kind of thanking me to giving this a bit of a critical look on the genre of street photography without mocking them or laughing at them, because I'm the same. I also take photos that already have been taken.
And I'm just about to think if one of my pictures would get chosen by you. Is that pro or con to my photography? I mean, is it something then, okay, I'm just imitating stuff that I've probably unconsciously captured. So it's kind of difficult. So how do you see it? Is it kind of just a collection and it's very neutral, or is it just telling other photographers just look at it and try to avoid all what's been done? What?
Well, I don't know. I mean, it's not a mockery. It's not. I'm not making fun of these similarities, but I don't know how it would be for you. I mean, would you feel guilty in a way, or how would you feel when you would be featured?
Probably if I would be the first taking that picture, that would be okay. But just, well, being aligned with others and then just being a copy of the original picture, that would be, well, a little bit deceptive for me.
But some images are also not that clearly like copied. Like some are. You can see that some themes there was a clear inspiration, and sometimes the photographers also told me that they were really trying to recreate a certain type of image or even the same situation. But I think a lot of images are also taken in a particular way unconsciously, because there are trends and styles, and I think because we see so many images, we save this in our heads even without knowing. So we might take a photo that we don't see as a copy, and it doesn't have to be a copy. It just fits into a certain style or a certain type of photography.
Do you think it's a risk for photographers in general when they spend too much time on Instagram without having their own vision approach of their photography, that they will not find their way just by being too much on social media?
I think it's tricky for everyone to spend too much time on Instagram. But I mean, it gets a bit tricky, and then, well, not dangerous, but it's a pity when you feel you have to take a certain type of images for a certain amount of likes, because I don't think the amount of likes matters. I mean, if you have 250 or 550 and you don't have, you are not an influencer, you don't have this financial benefit, it doesn't really matter. It's just numbers. So, I mean, it would be a pity if photographers would try to fit in a certain style to be likable, because in the end, I don't think it will really satisfy you. I think in the end, it's more valuable to find your own style.
Do you define yourself as a street photographer?
Yeah, I get asked this question. I mean, I think it's an easy definition, but then, of course, people ask, can street photography be on the beach as well? So it's a bit of a complicated term because it's so location based. But I'm just a photographer who photographs stuff in mostly public space and on post. So I don't know if it's a yes or no. I mean, I would probably say I'm a street photographer, but I'm not that strict on definitions.
You're also a member of Bonnevoie collective, which is one of the most famous collectives out there. Why did you join that collective, and what do you get out of this collective, or what do you put into this collective?
Yeah, it's just a group of people, and we have a lively chat on Facebook. So whenever I look on Facebook, there are messages from members. I think it's I mean, photography is quite a lonely. It's not a profession, but it can be a lonely thing to do, and I think it's valuable to have this base of people you can always turn to. And I mean, I think we are with a lot of photographers from different countries, so we have some difficulties to produce stuff. So if I think maybe smaller collectives that are closer, like where the members live closer to each other, it might be more easier to make like zines or books together. But then I really love that we are so diverse, like in terms of countries and I mean continents. So it's it's just a great group of people, and I love the personal styles of all of us.
And do you do each other's portfolio reviews, or like get input on your own work?
Not that much. I think it's more maybe on a personal level, like not in the chat group. But I think we do ask for advice about bookmaking and stuff. And I think we also are a lot in touch among each other, not only in the chat group, but just like in personal messages. But yeah, of course, we could do more of this. Yeah.
In terms of bookmaking, so what kind of recommendations would you have then for street photographers looking to their own book?
Well, I think because there are so many books. I mean, it's. I think you should ask yourself what you want to do with the book, or what you want to say with the series. I mean, do you want the book because you want a book, or is the series really suitable for a book? Because I never had the dream of making a book, because I don't have a lot of room for books, and I'm not really a book collector. So I do own books that I like, but I don't often go through them. So I never had this dream, but I thought that the series that I made was really suitable for a book, because it was like a certain period of time. It was a very strange period of time. So I think it's good to ask yourself if the series works the best in a book. And then, of course, in terms of designer and publisher, you have to decide. You have to decide if you want to be published by a publishing house, if you want to do the design by yourself, or if you want to hire someone. I would go for the second option, and you have to find the funding. So I would say don't underestimate it, but have fun with it.
Okay. And would you say that for a book of your own work, where it's not a clear project or series, you really have to let the work lie somewhere for a long time to get back to it, and maybe one day make a book of it? So not rush in and let the works, look if they are still touching you after years. And
Could be, yeah. Yeah, I mean, you can sometimes you don't see at first sight if the photo is good, and some photos become more important after some years. So it's always good to take a look back on your work. But for a book, I mean, it really depends on what you want to say and how recent your series is, and how which period fits this series to be published, of course.
And any plans with a StreetRepeat? I mean, that could be a book one day, or an exhibition, or so. Is that something you're looking forward?
I would love to do an exhibition. Yeah, maybe a book either, but I really have a nice plan for an exhibition.
Okay.
So, I'm a bit lazy, so I will have to do some work on that. But I have the idea, so that's a start.
And get the photographers, so it's going to be quite a lot of work. I guess. Well, it's quite windy here, so but it's very nice. So
it's talking street on street.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Any other projects? Any other plans for future?
Not really, but I think things will happen. But as I said, I'm never planning, so I hope something will happen, but I don't have this plan yet.
Yeah, I think we're running a little bit out of time. Again, thank you very much for having you here. Doing the conference yesterday was fascinating. Really enjoyed your presence here at the Luxembourg Street Photography Festival.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. And again, thank you very much for inviting me. This was great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.